Joining us now is Fox WWE expert Ryan Satin. He is here to explain to us what was a massive moment on the internet. I want to say, this is why I definitely am aware of this, Ryan. What happened? That John Cena has returned to WWE. I know basically nothing else. That's all I know. So we wanted to get you in front of us to explain why this is important, why John Cena coming out during a Roman Reigns. It looked like Roman Reigns was speaking to the crowd, and then Cena's music hits, and that pop from the crowd, like everyone lost their mind. And that's basically, we all saw the video, but why was this such a massive moment?
Well, so basically John Cena forever was the face of WWE. Like when you thought of John Cena, you thought of WWE, just like Hulk Hogan before him, just like The Rock and Stone Cold before him. They're just people that were like the face of the company that the main public knew of. And, you know, John Cena has left WWE. You know, he hasn't been around WWE for the past couple years. You know, even though he still has a good relationship with the company, he had still done, you know, smaller things here and there. He had done a match at WrestleMania. He had done a few things here and there, but he had largely stayed out of like the world title scene, like challenging the top guys, trying to, you know, be one of the faces of the company. He had kind of moved past that phase. He had let other people start to do it. And over the past like year now, because SummerSlam was a year ago, that's when Roman Reigns came back. Roman Reigns was always the guy who had been determined as the successor of John Cena. Roman Reigns was going to be the new face of the company. That was who everyone thought, like, okay, this guy can take the ball and run with it as the top guy. But a lot of the fans, similar to John Cena, kind of like fought back against it. They rebelled against it. They could tell that the top brass wanted this guy to be the golden child. And so he'd get these mixed reactions. He wasn't the good guy. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just kind of like getting all these mixed reactions. People would boo him. People would cheer him. But ever since he came back last year in July at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns is now an actual bad guy. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's the head of the table. He's the tribal chief, and he's been killing it. Like, wrestling fans always wanted him to be a bad guy, but WWE was always reluctant to pull the trigger on it. And during COVID, they finally did, and it's paid off so well. He is unquestionably the top champion in WWE. He is the top guy in WWE. He is like the definition of what you want a champion to be, and he has now officially become the new face of the company in the way that people saw he would be a few years ago when John Cena was still around. So long-winded to get to why it matters. You know, John Cena coming back now to challenge Roman Reigns is finally seeing these two faces of the company of different eras come face to face with with Roman Reigns finally in his finalized form, which is so savage. Wrestling fans can't wait to see these guys wrestle each other again.
So, Ryan, I have a question. Why now?
Well, John Cena, you know, he's had other times where he's come back too. So he does take breaks and come back, and it's a big deal. But the reason it's a bigger deal this time is because of the fact that he's challenging for the title. And the reason he's coming back now, I think it's pretty obvious. You know, for the past year and a half, like wrestling fans when watching WWE TV haven't been able to see a crowd. You know, I know you guys cover every sport, and a lot of sports have had fans back for a while now. You know, WWE just got them back this weekend, and it's been hard not having this thing that makes the thing that you watch and love come alive. You know, the fans make wrestling come alive, and so I think the reason John Cena is coming back right now is, I mean, obviously SummerSlam is one of the biggest shows of the year, but I really think that they wanted to give the fans something that just feels normal to them, you know? And I think they also want to give the fans someone who they know, no matter what, people are going to make noise for him. Like John Cena, he can be gone for 10 years, 5 years, whatever, and that crowd, there's not a lot of people that can get that crowd to make the noise that he does. You know, he's a very polarizing figure in WWE, or at least was for a long time, and he'd get booed, he'd get cheered, and when he came out, it was like this big roar of just noise. And just seeing him back this week, he still has it. Like when he came out for his promo on Monday Night Raw this week, the crowd that's the loudest they were the entire night. And I think that's the real reason WWE pulled the trigger on doing whatever they could to bring him back as fans come back, was because they want fans to have noise again. They want these shows to have noise again. And John Cena whether you love him or you hate him, he brings noise wherever he goes.
I want to expand on some of these things you're talking about here because I find this pretty curious. The last time I was really, I think we've talked about this before, Ryan, that I used to be very into wrestling. I got a little older, the more things popped up on my table, and it just kind of became harder to watch the 48 hours a week of content that it felt like I had to follow but I still like kind of keep I still try to follow it, Ryan. And one thing I remember about John Cena when I used to watch wrestling was that you kind of mentioned this, that not every fan loved him because he did fill that Hulk Hogan role where it was like almost inevitable. If John Cena was in a massive match for a title, he was winning. You just kind of knew that. And it felt like guys who weren't children, like grown adult guys like you and I that would watch this would be like, all right, here we go with John Cena again. And I think one of the criticisms that I would have had of Vince McMahon in WWE was that it was like kind of the same guys over and over and over, and like, let's get some fresh blood in here, let's get some new. And I felt like I wasn't alone in that. That seemed to be like a large contingency of WWE fans felt this way. So I guess my question, Ryan, is, was this surprising that John Cena got seemingly an overwhelming positive reaction? And from my perspective, at least, you know more than I do, it doesn't seem like there is like a faction of people that are like, oh my God, not again. John Cena's back, so now we gotta do this all over. What is it, 2006 all over again? Like, why is it that it's such a positive, overwhelmingly positive reaction? Or is it, I guess?
It is. It absolutely is. And I was very shocked to see it. You know, back in the day when Cena was at his height, people would always bring signs to the shows that said, if Cena wins, we riot. That was like the phrase back then. And when Cena came out at Money in the Bank, he pointed to a sign in the crowd that said, if Cena returns, we cheer. And he was like, I don't know what bizarro world I'm living in right now that sign is there and you're all cheering me. Not what I'm used to. And I think, to answer your question, I think the reason is because he's been gone so long this time. I mean, we had him at WrestleMania, not this one, but the one before that, but that wasn't in front of fans. That was the WrestleMania where it was an empty building, basically. And he had this like real cinematic match.
Did he even wrestle though? Like, was he physically...
I mean, he didn't like it was a cinematic match where it took place inside someone's mind. So it was much more not your typical wrestling match where they're punching each other in the face and stuff. It was supposed to be like messing with his mind, basically. Like, this guy is a scary guy, so this was all taking place in this fantasy mind
Ryan, I can just watch. I just love watching Ryan try to explain it. Like, he knows that like we don't follow it super closely, and like he's just in this moment right now realizing how insane wrestling is to explain it to someone that doesn't.
He's like,
really
so there's
watch it
this
closely.
thing called a fun house that this ogre basically lives in.
It's like I never really
It's
thought
like when I'm
about
talking to my
like,
girlfriend and I'm trying to explain like a wrestling storyline to her, and she's just appeasing me, and I'm like, and I realize like 10 minutes in that she could not care less about what I'm saying, but she's just trying to be nice.
But so you're basically saying absence makes the heart grow fonder, Ryan. That we just haven't
Absolutely.
seen.
Absence makes the
okay.
Yes.
Do you also think
Yes,
though
absolutely.
that do you think it has anything to do with Cena's off camera, like with his non-WWE persona? Because he's done all these Make-A-Wish things, he's in all these videos, he's sort of like has made himself, at least maybe, I think this might be true, somewhat lovable outside of the WWE universe. Like, does that factor in?
No, because he kind of, I mean, when he was in WWE, he was the person who granted the most wishes with Make-A-Wish out of every celebrity. That was kind of like always his thing. I think that it really is just the absence factor. Like, I think that, you know, and the outside ventures, I think that, you know, when John Cena was the champion, when he was the guy, when he was the face of the company, he had this feud with The Rock. And it was all based on John Cena going out there and doing all these interviews where he was like, The Rock turned his back on us. The Rock's doing movies. The Rock never comes back. The Rock doesn't care about wrestling fans. And he did this for like a year where he was like, I don't like, if The Rock cared about wrestling, he'd come back and wrestle me. That's what he would do. But he doesn't care. He cares about box office. And that was really like a thing that he felt passionate about, that he pushed for like a year, and it brought The Rock back. The Rock finally was like, all right, let's do this. They had a year build to the match. And it's one of John Cena's most, you know, epic encounters. But I think that the fact that we're seeing, as wrestling fans, I think the fact that we're seeing John Cena come back, and it wasn't because we all felt like he didn't care about wrestling, that he wasn't one of us anymore, that he was turning his back on us. I don't think anyone feels that way. I think that it's the opposite, that when he comes back, I think the fan love is there because everyone sees that he could leave. He could not come back. He doesn't have to come back and do this Summer of Cena. He can come back, do one match at SummerSlam and leave. He'd get paid. WWE probably wouldn't care. They'd be very happy just to have him for the one show. But he's not doing that. They got announced this week that he's doing a full Summer of Cena. So he's going to be on multiple SmackDowns. He's going to be on a couple Raws. And he's even doing non-televised live events. So I think that just when you see that this guy does want to use his newfound success to help the pro wrestling business without people having to force his hand, I think that's why he gets a lot of the love right now, why he's getting a lot of the love from fans right now, because I think that we can genuinely see that this is something he wanted to do.
How does it work when John Cena steps away from wrestling to make movies? Is the movie that he's in, does that become part of kayfabe for his character as a wrestler, Ryan? I'm curious. Like when he goes, what was the first like big movie he was in? Was it The Marine? Was that the one? Like,
Yeah,
so
he
when
was in The
comes,
Marine, yeah.
when he comes back from that, do we as wrestling fans, having watched The Marine, is the same guy wrestling? Was the movie, is it woven into the storyline? You understand what I'm saying?
Dominic
here, right?
Toretto is not wrestling
Yes.
Roman Reigns.
Okay, I'm
at
confused because
SummerSlam.
John Cena, because The Rock very smartly is The Rock when he wrestles, and now he's Dwayne Johnson when he acts, and like my brain can understand that. But John Cena is the real life guy's name. It is the character's name in WWE. It is his actor name in Hollywood. It's the same name, but three different people kind of. The guy that's doing the Make-A-Wish is named John Cena. The guy that's wrestling Roman Reigns is John Cena. And the guy that's acting in F9 is John Cena. And it's all very confusing, Ryan. So how do we suss that out?
I think that I feel like the only time he really took a piece of one of his characters and injected it into his persona was the Marine. I could be wrong here. The hardcore wrestling fans might say I'm wrong here, but I feel like he wasn't like before the Marine. He wasn't really doing he wasn't like all militaried out. I feel like it was after the Marine, when he did the Marine, that he started wearing the Cena dog tags and kind of like doing that whole thing and like doing the salute when he came to the ring. Cause I feel like that came harder because
he used to wear the big
Marine.
chains and the basketball jerseys and yes.
Which Cena are we gonna get then for the Summer of Cena? Who's coming back? Are we getting the Yankees jersey Cena? Are we getting the jorts Cena? Do we know, or is that part of what's exciting?
We're getting the jorts Cena. I was actually wondering the same thing ahead of time. My friend and I, who I was watching the pay-per-view with, we were like, does he still like we all know John Cena loves wearing suits now. Like before you were like, oh, okay, this guy, he could wear jorts. Maybe he wears jorts outside of the rings. Like maybe when he's home, he hangs out in jean shorts. But we all know that John Cena has this like epic suit collection. So I was like, a piece of me was kind of hoping he'd like be more of himself to a certain degree. But I think if if you're only there for a certain amount of time, you want to give the people what they want. And it'd be weird if someone
and the people want jorts.
Yeah, the people want jorts. Exactly. They want the t-shirts. They want their jorts. So yeah, it was nice to see. It was like a little sense of normalcy again, you know?
Ryan, my last question, we'll let you get out of here. You have watched a lot of wrestling in your life. You have seen a lot of loud pops is the term, Charlotte, for when the music hits and the guy shows and then the fans just lose their mind.
That's a technical term, the loud pop?
The pop.
Yep.
Yeah.
The pop?
Pop, yeah.
Well done, Mark.
Yes.
Wow.
Where would this, where does this rank, Ryan? Where does John Cena come in? Because it seemed very loud to me as I watched it, but also, let's not maybe be victims of recency bias here. Where for you does this rank on the terms of like the 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll say, of the loudest, most insane atmospheres you've seen from a wrestling crowd?
Probably 9 or 10 for sure.
Wow.
This is top 5 pop of all time for sure.
Wow.
People just weren't expecting people weren't expecting him to come back. I think Us wrestling nerds on the WWE on Fox team had this discussion in our Slack chat because John Cena had another really big return pop once. It was the Royal Rumble a long time ago. He had been injured. Nobody thought that he would be back in the amount of time that he came back in. He had like 6 more months, everyone thought, of recovery left. And, you know, the Royal Rumble, there's 30 people in it. Everyone's wondering who number 30 is going to be. And when his music hit, that place came unglued, right? But this one, similarly, no one was expecting it, right? And I think the argument, the comparison of the two is that John Cena's return pop at the Royal Rumble maybe was initially louder because it was like he was the top guy at the time. Nobody thought he was coming back. But I think the one on Sunday was more prolonged. I think the one on Sunday, like, was maybe a tiny bit quieter initially, but the length in which that sound continued for was hard to compare it to. Like, I mean, that's the reason I would put it so high up, because there have been bigger pops, I think, of just like that 1, 2, 3 or whatever, like that one initial boom. But that prolonged crowd noise for Cena was just deafening. And my Andrew Lynch, who works here at Fox Sports, was there in person for it, and he told me it was like nothing he had seen in person before.
Wow,
that's
wow.
amazing.
As I was watching, I just thought I was thinking too how quick the pop happens with Cena now, where the trumpet, like the very first, you know it immediately, and it just reminds me of like Steve Austin's glass breaking. That like it takes like less than a half of a second for the fans to know exactly who I don't know, and that's rare to have a wrestler. That's how you know. I mean, like, that's how you know you've really made it, right? As a wrestler, is that it's like the musician that can play one note of a song and the people lose their mind and they know what song's coming. That's what it is with John Cena. It's like, and then the place just goes crazy because they know exactly what's coming. Ryan, we appreciate you explaining to us what's going on here with John Cena. We have to keep an eye on it now. Charlotte's going to be tuned in watching George Cena.
I'm gonna have to watch George Cena.
SummerSlam. You guys gotta watch SummerSlam, August 21st.
Okay, we'll watch SummerSlam. I have one really quick question for you.
All right.
Is he gonna be in good enough shape to do this?
Oh yeah,
That's it.
dude.
All right, just I mean, I wouldn't.
That's like asking if like Superman is going to be in good shape before he goes up against
just
some
playing devil's
villain.
advocate. I don't know.
John Cena. This isn't James Harden we're talking about here, Charlotte. We don't have to worry about John Cena's fluctuating. Come on, let's go. Ryan, we appreciate it. Be good, man.
Thanks, guys.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People's Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.